Hi, everybody. Welcome to Binford Chronicles. I just wanted to touch base with you tonight because HR 38 is a bill that's back in play. It came back in March of the 25th. It was reintroduced on January 3rd of 2025. And right now it went through the committee. And it's got 178 Republican co-sponsors. That's right, only 178 co-sponsors. So what is HR 38? Let me pull it up for you here on the screen. I want you to get a bigger view of the screen. And let me scroll down for you. Here we go. So HR for text, HR 38, Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. That means if you have your concealed carry here in Florida, you can go across state lines and not become a criminal. How do you like them apples, huh? And it is introduced by Rep. Richard Hudson, Republican from North Carolina. We want to see who is Richard Hudson, but before we go there, let's see what else we can find out about this bill. The official title is introduced to amend Title 18 United States Code to provide a means by which non-residents of a state whose residents may carry concealed firearms may also do so in the state. So if I was in Florida, I got a concealed carry, and I went to another state, I would have reciprocity straight across all the states. I could actually go from East Coast to West Coast without having to travel around a state. I think it's incredible that we have the House and the Senate, and out of all of our Republicans, we only had 178 that co-sponsored this bill. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to please contact your reps. Call your state reps and tell them to vote on this bill, HR 38. So that's HR 38, Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. Sponsor Richard Hudson, Republican in North Carolina. He introduced this on January 3rd, 2025. It went to the House Judiciary Committee. And let's call our representatives and say, pass this bill. If you come down here, the actions overview, and if you scroll down a little bit more, you will see all the actions on January 3rd. It was introduced in the House. They had an action from the House of Representatives on the 3rd, referred to the House Committee on the Judiciary by the House of Representatives on the 3rd. The committee took it under consideration, and markup session was held on the 25th. And it was ordered to be reported amended by the Yeas and Nays of 18-9 by the Committee on the Judiciary. So it tells you the steps that it took. And then if you look just down here, that's 178 co-sponsors, 178 co-sponsors. And you will have all the names of your reps here. And this is Richard Hudson, but look at his score. I mean, I'm glad that he's on our side this time, but a lot of these representatives are going to be doing this. This is called the freedomindex.org. You find this by going to the freedomindex.org, thefreedomindex.org, one word. And you can look up any of your reps. I'm just looking up Richard Hudson right now, because when it comes to understanding the bills that they're voting on, this is really a good tool. But since I've learned of this site, I've been using it a lot. And you can read it. And then what you do is down here where it says read more about this vote, you can click down here. This was the American Relief Act. And you can do the text right here. Let me see if it changed it. And you could read about that bill. I kind of just wanted you to take a look at that. You can pull up all your representatives right here. So if you wanted to call your representative, go to the freedomindex.org and you could scroll down, if I could get my mouse down there, and you could see your representatives and you could see how poorly your representative's doing. This representative is Robert Albrecht, Alabama, and he's scoring 58 points. 47, Don Bacon. Why? Why are you constitutionally voting on bills at 47%? This is a constitutional oath, how they stick to the Constitution. And that's what that score is. It's how many constitutional bills that you vote on, and what is your score on those. And I can tell you, we have some people like Tom Barrett, he's pretty new. We have some people that are voting like Democrats. And if you'll stick with me, I'll scroll down. Here we've got a 59, but I bet you we've got lower scores than that. We've got 55, we've got 59, another 55. These with no scores are new representatives. We've got 47% here, Shelley Capito. That's a senator. And those always concern me because what happens to a bill, right? The bill gets written. It goes to your Congress, your representatives. They put it in committee. Then it moves forward. Who does it move forward to? It moves forward to the Senate after it gets past the House, right? And who votes on it to approve it? Senate does. So if you have a senator that's voting at 47%, they're not even voting 50% Republican. They're voting pretty much Democrat because the Democrats don't vote constitutionally at all. Because if we lose the Republican Party, there's nobody to secure this republic. We've got 60s, 57s. Look, we've got Ciscomani, Juan Ciscomani. He's voting 44%. He calls himself a Republican, but he can't even meet 50% of the grade. You've got 52% here. You've got 38%, Susan Collins. She's also a senator who's not even 50% Republican. She's 38% Republican. Why? Why are we having 38% Republicans in there? And who else do we have down here? So this is just really interesting. We've got Crane, Elijah Crane. He's been doing great. I've been watching him. He's almost 100% Republican vote. We've got, of course, Dan Crenshaw. I don't know why he's still in there, but he needs to be gone too. Here we've got 47, Dela Cruz. We've got 47, Delabarts. We've got Byron Doddles, 93%. Hopefully he'll be our next governor. 44%, Chuck Edwards. He's only 44% Republican. This is embarrassing, really, to go through these scores. Like, look at your representatives. Remember this guy's name, Brian Fitzpatrick, because I want to take you to the Democrat side if you're going to hang out this long. Brian Fitzpatrick, 26% representative. I really want to look at his record. We can do that by clicking on his name, but then I'll have to switch screens and all that, and that's a pain in the butt. So these people are like calling themselves Republican conservatives. They're not. We've got 48%, 30%. Thomas Keene. You know what this is? These are Republicans. These are Democrats infiltrating the Republican Party. When you can't even score 50% Republican, you are a Democrat. Look at this. Kevin Kiley, 38% Republican vote. Higgins, 38% Republican vote. People, we have to do a better job of getting these people in Congress. When all of our Republicans start voting like this, We've lost the republic. Oh my goodness. Look at this one. Let me scroll up so you can see his name. Lawler, 33%. This list is getting worse than it was last year. When you start seeing, and I'm going to tell you why. So just hang with me, okay? I want you to see all these bad scores. Because when you see the Democrat side, you're going to want to throw up. Thomas Massey, nearly 100% constitutional. Look at that. Almost 100% constitutional. These are constitutional grades on their oath of loyalty to the United States Constitution, because it's their job. If they don't secure the bills that are being passed, if they don't pass constitutional bills, they're going to be unconstitutional bills. They're going to be what we just went through with the Democrat side. And you will see it. Hang with me. I'm telling you, hang with me. 56%, 57%. Look, Corey Mills, love the guy. Constitutional. That's what we need. We need these people. Barry Moore, we need these people. But do you see? They're the minority. They're the minority fighting for you and me. We need to have more representatives like this. So when Trump gets mad at Massey or Paul Rand for voting, for not following his exact plan, there's a reason. I trust these guys. There's a reason they're fighting back, because Trump doesn't always have the best advisors. If you don't agree with me, please let me know. But Trump does not always have the best advisors. Look at this. Another senator, Lisa Murkowski, 45% constitutional. And I challenge you to go to thefreedomindex.org and pull up her record. Remember, click on her name and all her years of service, and how she voted in those years of service will come up. This lady's been in office for, like, I don't know, 18 to 22 years, something like that. Okay, so we've got 53% Republican, 43%. This is how the Democrats usually vote, but not anymore. Wait till you see. Hang on. I'm going to show you the Democrats. Don't go anywhere. And we've got 68%, 72%. There goes Rand Paul, 96%. I'm telling you, this guy could be president. Him and Massey. But I say Rand Paul because Rand Paul has a lot of years of service and he's been consistent. Click on his name. This man has been consistent. You can trust this man. And this is why I didn't vote for Tim Scott when he was running. I didn't want him to be VP because he's a chameleon. Good guy. I don't mean, if I call them a chameleon, I don't think they're like mean people. I'm just being transparent. Look, he changes his colors. We as a people need to vote the right people in, or we're going to lose this republic, because these people, once they get in, they get rich and they stay in for a lifetime, because we don't have term limits, guys. We don't have term limits. And if we're not going to pay attention, we're just going to give it away. Elise Stefanik, I was like, oh, so happy when she was gone, because I was like, you telling me we can't find a constitutional representative in New York that can at least be around 60% or 70%, so that we at least can start pushing, raising the bar? No, we're back to 48%. This woman, this is the handicap. These people are the handicaps. 48 Turner, 47 Velado. What in the world is happening? This is a new person. This new person. California is just getting worse and worse as time goes on. We've got 63 Van Drew. We heard him talking this year about the drones and all that stuff. He did make some sense there. in some of the discussions. We have 64%. We're back in the 60s. Look at this. Tony Weed, 0%. Nobody should have 0%. So just go, do me a favor, somebody go to thefreedomindex.org and look up Tony, is it Wade or Weed or Wide? W-I-E-D, Tony, W-I-E-D. Look him up. He's got a 0. So I took us all the way to the top, and this is where we're going to look at the Democrats. So I'm going to change the party from Republican to Democrat. Are you ready? So I got to ask you, now that we're going to the Democrats, what kind of scores do you think you're going to see? Think about it for a second. You just saw the Republican side. Minority of Republicans are in the 90s. A smaller minority are in the 80s. About the same average that are in the 80s are in the 70s. And then from the 60s down, there's a great number of those. And then there's a smaller minority of those that are in the 30s to the zeros now. I have this first time we've got a 0 in the Republican Party. That's horrible. Okay, so do you got that number in your head? What kind of numbers you're going to see in the Democrats? The highest percentage you'll see in a Democrat. Remember, we had a 26 and a 0 in our Republican side. 26% Republican. And the other guy just came out 0 Republican. All right, I'm going to show you now. Ready? 8% constitutional. 8% constitutional. Totally not constitutional. The new people won't have scores. 4%. So far, the highest percent is 22%. 25% is the highest percent, Bishop. But look how low these percentages are. Remember, Bishop, 25%. How do you get 1%? Bishop is 25%. Bishop is still 25%. Nobody's gotten above Bishop. As far as, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, you took an oath to the Constitution. So you're supposed to be constitutional. Okay. Clark is 22%. Bishop is still 25%. Bishop is still in the lead with 25%. Look, Jasmine Crockett, the one that's always dancing and talking, and this privileged Black girl or Black African woman, colored African woman, brown African woman, whatever the heck you want to call it, she is 3% constitutional. And she grew up with an elite lifestyle. She grew up with a better lifestyle than me. And I'm Puerto Rican. I grew up poor. Okay. I was a poor kid, and I grew up with two parents that were divorced. So this lady had it way better than me. And lived in better streets than I lived in. I lived in tough areas. So let's take a look. Bishop, 20, what was he? 22%, 25%, somewhere around there. Bishop, 10%, 22%, 15%, 8%, 3%. You got to be proud. Look at Frost. We need to get rid of Frost in Florida. He wants to turn kids into advocates. Bishop still has the highest percentage out of all the Grijalva, Arizona, 27%. Arizona, 27%. And look at Green, he got kicked out. Remember when Trump was talking and he was doing his speech? He got kicked out, 18%. So Grijalva. is 27% from Arizona. Grijalva. Grijalva. Look, we got zeros, 15, 27% Grijalva. But this is your Democrats, Grijalva. So 27% is the highest constitutional representative on the Democrat side. And look at this, Brittany Pedersen. She came in with her baby because she went on maternity leave. Look, if you're in labor on the day they have to vote, that's one thing. It's almost the same thing as getting sick. You would have to call out. Or if you got hit by a car, you would have to call out. That's a medical situation. But if you've already delivered your baby, and you've been released from the hospital to go home, you need to treat it like your regular work, except as a representative of the citizens of the United States. Your vote represents not just you and your baby and your family, it represents your constituency. So you have to, I don't care what you do, you have to know that when you get pregnant, that you have a responsibility to the people. You've got to plan for it. You know when we're in sessions, you know when we do all these voting periods, it's January, February, March. You can plan when you're going to deliver your baby. Literally, you can. Hello, we have control of our body. We really do. So I disagree. I think if she needed time to deliver the baby, yeah. But if she decided to have children, she needed to plan better or get out of office. These positions really are not supposed to be lifelong positions. If you're too young and want to have kids while you're in office, you got to pay the price. I'm sorry. You are representing hundreds of thousands of people. And that's your responsibility. You took that role. So no, I'm a woman. I can say that because I'm a woman. So 27, Grijalva is still in the lead. 27, Grijalva. Look, we got these zeros in here. 19. You see how low these scores are? It represents what we've been dealing with these last 4 years and for decades, really. We've just seen the ugliness of it through the Biden administration and the Trump administration exposing it. But look at these people. They're not even why did they even swear to the Constitution? They're not voting constitutionally. That's what slays me. Everybody should have, to me, if this is my opinion, okay, so the Republican Party, to me, is the party that is going to save the Republic, because we are the conservative party. We follow the Constitution. At least we're supposed to. We believe in the Constitution. We believe in the social compact. We believe in small government. We believe in the freedom of the people to be able to build their business, to thrive in their business. And we don't want to over-regulate you so that you can't build your dream, right? It's supposed to be the land where you come and you prosper and you invent things, or you start a business and you go from rags to riches. You can't go from rags to riches when you're overregulated. You can't go from rags to riches, when you're overtaxed. So there's a lot of things that Republicans don't believe in because they want you to thrive. Creativity doesn't thrive by being restricted. It thrives by being let out. You open the box and it flies out and it goes, wow, look at that. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. And then you develop creativity that way. But if you're just set in a box all the time because you're so restricted, you can't expand your imagination. And when you can't expand your imagination, there's no enthusiasm to learn more. But it is up to the Republican Party to be strong to safeguard our Constitution. This Democrat Party, what it's turned into, is a party that puts their hand on the Bible, swears to the Constitution, but doesn't uphold it. That creates bills, sends bills to the House that are not constitutional. And that is where the riff is, because now we have, as you've seen, Republicans in the House that are 20, 27, 26%, 0% Republican. They can't even vote to pass a constitutional bill. That is a problem. And what's the issue I see is that as Republicans, we don't work hard to vet the other candidates. We're familiar with this candidate. We really didn't follow the candidate, right? We didn't really see what kind of bills he was passing. So we're kind of like, well, I didn't hear anything bad. We don't hear anything bad because nobody's watching. And when nobody's watching, nobody knows, right? So nobody knows until the obvious happens. Then all eyes are on that person. But if you stop watching, they stop caring. So what we need to do is these Republicans that we now have in office that are not living up to their constitutional oath by securing our constitutional compact with constitutional bills, because these are laws that go nationwide. And that's your state representatives, your federal representatives, all of them should be working constitutionally. Now, the ones that are in there, that are in the majority, that are not constitutionally strong, we need to hold them accountable. And hopefully, if we hold them accountable, we can lead them back on the tracks of Republican integrity. That means they start looking at it like Republicans should. But if we don't do that, that majority in the House that you say, oh, we have a majority of the House, why can't we pass bills? Why aren't they constitutional? Well, guess what? If the minority of the House is constitutional, which you saw those, Massey, Rand Paul, those examples, Byron Donalds, Corey Mills, Kat Comack, you saw those. Those were strong constitutionalists, okay? Even Kat kind of waves that she's more of an 80s, 85 girl, but I can handle that, right? For now, because most of them are below 65%, a huge majority. So right there, you have an infestation that is deteriorating the Republic, because the Republic is built on constitutional law. It's built on those values and morals. And if we have more, some people want to be nice and call them moderates. When the numbers get below 60%, I call them Democrats that are wearing the Republican title. You saw them in there. You saw those Republicans in there that I showed you. They're Democrats wearing the Republican title. And for now, it's going to be hard to change that, because that's the majority of what we have. The minority is more like the caucus. Like, remember when they were fighting for Speaker of the House, McCarthy? Guess what? Everybody was mad at the minority that was fighting as Republicans. Anna Paulina Luna is one of them. She's constitutionalist, except now I'm not happy with what she's doing about this whole birthing thing, the mother thing, because you guys are representatives. You're not like a regular working mom. I represent myself as a working mom, not thousands, hundreds of thousands of people with one vote. So they are held to a higher standard. And we have to remember that. And I know I want to feel bad because I had a mother and I had 3 months I took off work, but you are in that position. And Paulina, get out of it if that's what you're going to start thinking. That is not a regular job. It's not. They are held to a higher standard. So listen, guys, we need to look at their scores and write to them and tell them, look, you're not voting like a Republican. You need to start voting like a Republican or we're going to primary you. And when they realize people are watching, keeping track, starting to understand the bills, we just might be able to reform those people that are in there that we're calling rhinos and lean them over back to the Republican side. Because the way I see it also is if you put a good Republican in the company of a majority of very moderate chameleon Republicans, that person's probably going to become a chameleon Republican. Why? Because he doesn't have the support. The only support he's getting is all these other people, and we have minds, and we are pack people, and we follow the pack sometimes. You have to be really strong and instilled in your values to fight that back because you're the minority. You're the singled out one, and nobody likes to be singled out. And right now, that strong conservative constitutional Republican representative is a smaller minority. And you see that they're ending up in Senate. That is the worst place for them to end up. In Senate, they start running for Senate positions and they're voting like Democrats. Do we want a Republican that votes like a Democrat in the Senate rejecting our constitutional bills? No, we don't. So I want to leave you with that thought. And tell me what your comments are. This is my opinion. This is what I've observed. I showed you the freedomindex.org. Use it, read it, give me your opinion on it. And there's other scoring cards. I know the Republican Liberty Caucus does one, but they just pretty much do it. It's more circled around state, what the state needs and wants. It's not really the John Birch Society, which is where you get the freedomindex.org. They lean more libertarian, but I like that because if you're more constitutional, you will lean a little more libertarian. And the freedomindex.org is a really good tool if you just need a reference point. It's a really good tool to start. And it gives you all of their phone numbers, their emails, their contact information. So reach out and make them accountable. If we don't do it, look how close we are right now to being in war and to losing this great republic. Trump can't do it himself because he doesn't have not all the advice he gets from his advisors is good. It's not. You've noticed it. I've noticed it. And I'm tired of saying, well, it's a Republican, so now I have to vote for him. I can't stand him, but nobody else is running. Well, we got to make those changes. We got to change the PAC money as well, because a grassroots person rarely is going to win against all the PAC money and special interests. It's getting out of hand. And I'm afraid we are going to lose our republic. If it's not through Trump, it'll be through another representative, another president. Why? Because remember, presidents change every 4 years, and the chameleons of the House and the Senate, well, they're not the same person. It all depends on who's president, right? So if we have a really strong, hardcore constitutional Republican Party, it won't matter who's president because that party will be strong. And that's what we need. We need a strong party. We need a party that's not going to kowtow to the Democrats because the Democrats have been taken over. You can see it in their scores. Who votes constitutionally 3% of the time when they take an oath to defend the Constitution. That's your freedom. That's my freedom. That's the liberties that we live in. That's the compact, the social compact that is the United States. Just think about it, guys. I'm glad you stuck around this long, and leave your comments below. And I'll see you at Binford Chronicles on Saturday. So join me on Saturday at 6 p.m. I will have another J6er on. And remember to support your J6ers. Their lives were totally torn up. I'm going to do another video coming soon that will have their GoFund pages. And I beg you, please, $5, $10, if 1,000 of us gave $5, just think about it. But if 1,000 of us gave $5 to one of the J6ers that I'm going to put the list on, and another 1,000 to another J6er, that would help them so much. Some of them are living out of their cars, really, you know, and the ones that did okay are the ones that, which are few, but they had big businesses. They were very successful before this happened to them. So they had a lot of resources to bounce back on. So please join us this Saturday, April 5th at 6 p.m. All right, good night.